Okay, so in this video, we're going to be looking at a couple apps, not really fixing things on the apps, but just seeing how they run and also talking about ways to make them a little easier to read or just write them in different ways. So this first one is astrological signs. You enter your name, you put in your birthday, and it tells you your sign. So hi, Jennifer, because your birthday is March 6th, your sign is Pisces. So this one's pretty interesting because if you know anything about astrological signs, I don't know a ton, but I have seen here you have to consider, like here it says if month equals January and day is greater than or equal to 23. So basically this sign, which is Aquarius, is when January is past or equal to the 23rd or past, all the way through February the 19th. So they had to use these and statements for the different months because you have to take pieces of the months. Now, the one thing that I'm going to modify on this program is that, for example, to see that Aquarius, I had to scroll over this way. So this is a really great opportunity to create a variable like decision or sign. I think I use sign, so I'll use that because I'm not going to make you watch me redo the whole thing. And then instead of doing set text each time, you can just set the sign equal to Aquarius here and then do the set text at the very end. So I'm going to delete this just to bring it back to its normal version. I'll also show the blocks and kind of talk about that too. It's almost a little harder to read even with the blocks because you have these big set text areas in every single if statement. So here I switched it over. I made a variable for sign, and then you see after each if and else if statement, I set the sign equal to that, and then I just have one set text area at the end that's called based on whatever that sign variable is. So even with the blocks, when we switch over, we can see that that's a little cleaner to look at, right? So we can see what the sign is. It's also easier to read as I go through here. Now, each of these things I do is called refactoring your code. It's not changing anything. If you think about in math, when we factor, we're not changing the value of an expression. We're just writing it in a different way. And that's what I'm doing here. I won't change the functionality of any programs. I'll just make them maybe a little shorter, a little easier to read, possibly run faster is something we'll talk about as we get to some of those. Okay, so for this next one, this was actually one that I made as an example. I'm going to use it as a starting point for a certain type of refactoring you can do. So here, actually on mine, when I run it, mine updates as I put in the name. It remembers, I don't know why it's set to 40. I think I set age equal to 40 as kind of like an average age of a person to start out. But I'll put this in, and then let's say I'm going to pick entertainment. So mine updates as you change any of these three, which is why I have 3 event handlers. When the name input changes, the age input changes, or the type dropdown changes. All those things happen, and I have an update screen function. So currently in my update screen function, I did not mean to be looking at this one, but same gist, that's one of my refactoring examples. Here, I used what I talked about in the last video where I had activity choice as a variable to store them. And I have all these different statements, which are fine. And this is what I told you you had to do with you had to include an and or an or somewhere in your code. So this is pretty straightforward, less than 10 people for each of the 3 activity types, between 10 and 50 for each of the 3 activity types, and then over 50, and then I just have an else for the last possible activity type. So the first thing I thought about doing, and some of you did this, was kind of grouping things. So here, instead of doing each of these, I did if age is less than or equal to 10, and then I did another if statement under it for each of the activity types. And I'm going to show that one next. So here, if age is less than or equal to 10, I put another if statement in it. So you would get into this if the person was under less than or equal to 10, and then you would look through the 3 activity types. I just had an else for the last one though, for that something unique choice. So this is another way. And what this does, it starts to kind of make things look like you might be able to use a function. Now, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to use a function with parameters because, for example, this section here has the same structure as this section, except the activity choices 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 are different. So I have repeated code, but not completely repeated code. But if I create a function that has parameters here, okay, for each of these, basically I'm going to be able to make a function that can be called to put in these 3 choices. So I'm going to show that. We did a little bit of parameters with Turtle, and we have a whole unit where we'll start to work more with parameters and return statements and things like that later. So down here is my function update screen. So if age is less than or equal to 10, I have this new type decision function that gives with 3 parameters, and these are the 3 possible choices. And we're going to look at that type decision function. Then if the age is greater than 10 or less than 50, I have these 3 possible decisions. And lastly, the greater than 50, 3 decisions. So my type decision function is a function that I've defined with 3 parameters: the hiking choice, the entertainment choice, and the unique choice. Because just as a reminder, my app has these 3 choices: hiking, entertainment, or something unique. So if the activity type equals hiking, the activity choice will equal the hiking choice, entertainment will give me an entertainment choice, and the unique will give me a unique choice. So up here, when I call these functions, I'm saying for the 10, the hiking choice will be Falling Waters Preserve, the entertainment choice will be Arm of the Sea Theater, and the unique choice will be Catskill Animal Sanctuary. And what this allows me to do, if I ended up coming up maybe with, I don't know, 5 different things I wanted here, all that would involve would be adding 2 more else ifs to this function and 2 more parameters to this function. But my actual code really wouldn't get longer, other than the fact that I'd have to add a couple else ifs here. So then I would just have type decision, and I would have a hiking choice, an entertainment choice, a unique choice, maybe a sports choice, maybe a water choice or something like that. And I could kind of expand my app and make it bigger without actually making the code bigger or harder to read. So that's just one idea of how parameters are really useful. Okay, so we're going to look at another app that someone made. I'm just going to run it. There's a couple things I like about this app. Basically, you're at Wonderland. You pick an intensity level. So maybe I'm going to pick moderate, and then I'll enter my age. And it's going to recommend a roller coaster to me. So it shows me a picture of this roller coaster. The user input is like really nice and kind of feels like something you would see at an amusement park. It says, "Hi, Jennifer, based on the intensity level you chose and your age, Wonderland Amusement Park thinks that you would enjoy our roller coaster, the Cheetah." Okay, so sounds cool, like they're actually talking to you. Looking at what it does, as I change these suggestions, you'll see that they're hiding the original, which is this amusement park name, Welcome to Wonderland. And I'm guessing that this other thing we're hiding is the home coaster image. So it hid these 2 things. It's setting the image URL, and once again, I'm on the wrong one. Okay, it's setting the image URL to this web link. And then it's showing the Twister image, which is this image we picked for whatever roller coaster gets picked. And you'll see there's a bunch of different ones. And then it also shows the coaster info. And the coaster info is going to be the greeting, which is saved up here as a variable, that high name based on the intensity level and so on. And then the name of the roller coaster is the Twister. So we see a lot of repeated code here. And the first thing I'm actually going to work on is just talking about what we can do with these images, because these images are kind of weird looking. You have to scroll over to see those full images. So one idea you can do whenever you have images is to store them as variables and then just call or put the variable name in place of that URL. So that's what I'm going to show in this one. So here I took those 4 URLs. Nothing's going to work different. And I stored them as Twister, Cheetah, Cali Coaster, and Daredevil. Those are our 4 possible roller coasters that get picked. So down here, instead of saying Twister image and then, HTTPS and so on, I just have Twister. Down here, I have cheetah and cheetah again, Cali Coaster and Cali Coaster again, and then lastly, Daredevil. And just to give a little background on the app, I'm not going to run it for too long. If you're younger and you pick like a higher intensity level, it's still going to recommend like a slightly more mild roller coaster. So like if you're a kid and you say I want something intense, it's going to really recommend the adult's moderate ride. And I also thought that was kind of a cool twist on the app. So that's one way just to kind of make things look nicer. Now, looking and talking about using a function here, every single one of these, except for the bottom, which is basically if you forget to change this from the word intensity, it's just going to keep the picture the same. But all of the other ones are hiding the amusement park name, hiding the coaster image. They're setting an image URL to something. This is where it's different. They might be setting it to the cheetah or the twister or something like that. But then they are showing these two elements. And then lastly, I left this set text out. I could have done another parameter and kept it in there. So these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines, I'm going to make a function. And then my parameter is going to be picture or something like that. I'll put picture here and we'll see that. And as I said, this is just starting to think about those parameters before we get to it, which will probably be in January. So down here, I called my function show hide, and then whatever name the roller coaster was or the picture that was going to pop up. So that show hide function is right here. Sorry about that. Show hide picture. So I did the hide, show. That's the same for all of them. And then when I set the image URL, the twister image, which is the picture that pops up, to whatever picture it is. So for example, on the first one, I want it to be the Twister picture. Okay, and it's kind of confusing because Twister is the overall name of the roller coaster, but Twister is also the name of a specific roller coaster. So this is Twister, this one's Cheetah, the Cheetah picture, and so on. And I've greatly shortened that code, and I can really see, okay, so what's happening is I'm showing stuff and hiding other stuff and just showing that Cali coaster and then printing it out. And once again, with refactoring, the whole idea here is if I type in my name, pick that moderate intensity level and type in my age, nothing has really changed. I've just made the code a little bit easier to read and a little bit shorter there.